thank you to all of our veterans, for all of you who have served and who are serving. That is a wonderful, great sacrifice, and we couldn't be more proud to have you on our campus and with us here today. So thank you so much. Also, I'd like to say thank you to SGA for helping put this together, as well as to our staff members who helped cook all of the food that you guys are getting to partake today. Julie Smalls, Amber Holmes, Amy Murders, and Angie Cox. So thank you guys for coming. And thank you guys so much for everything that you do for our campus. I'd like to now introduce our Chief Academic Officer, Mr. Michael Murders, and he is also a veteran as well. So please welcome Mr. Murders.
Thank you, Justine, and thank you for your work here today. It's a great honor to be here. First of all, let me thank you all for coming, and we appreciate you being here at Arkansas Tech, the Ozark campus. We're glad to be able to host this. It's quite an honor to get to recognize our veterans. I mean, this is a special day. This is a national holiday. It's a time to reflect and appreciate all those who have come before us and those who are serving now, and really pay just one day of respect and acknowledge all the contributions and sacrifices that have been given. And so I appreciate you all being here with us as a vet. I appreciate it. For all you vets out there, I want to thank you as well. It takes some special people to do what's been done, and I think we can all appreciate that. We are quite honored today, and I sincerely mean that, quite honored to have such a great guest speaker to represent us here at this event. And first, let me thank Ms. Shannon Brentz. She's a high school teacher, but she also adjuncts for us. So she's part of the ATU family. So we appreciate it. And this is her grandfather who is speaking today, but she's had him here for us before. So I've had the privilege of getting to hear it, and I'm ready to hear some more. But I wanted to thank you for helping us line this up and being part of the family. Today, it's my honor to introduce Burl Bernard Wolfson. He's a 92-year-old vet of World War II and the Korean War. Born in New Orleans, Louisiana in 1923, Jewish, confirmed in bar mitzvah in New Orleans. Believe it or not, he lied about his age so he could join the military at 17. What a sacrifice. When he joined, he was part of the 141st Field Artillery Regiment located in New Orleans. He did basic training at Camp Shelby, Mississippi. Then he did ranger training in Camp Blanding, Florida, and Camp Sutton, North Carolina. He met and married his first wife, Catherine, in North Carolina. They had 3 daughters and 1 son. He retired after 22 years in the Army. After his first wife passed away, he then remarried. His current wife, Esther Wolfson, who can be with us today, and they've been married for around 40 years, and she is his constant companion. He and Esther still live here locally on a farm in Lamar. During World War II, Mr. Wolfson served as a radio operator, mainly on observation posts directing artillery and heavy mortar fire. He saw action in North Africa, Italy, France, and Germany, where he witnessed the atrocities of the Holocaust at Dachau concentration camp. This camp served as a model, believe it or not, for all the other concentration camps, and was in existence for 12 years. So if you get a chance to go read about it, there's a lot there. Mr. Wolfson was raised in a conservative Jewish family, so what he saw at the concentration camp was deeply personal, obviously, to him and affected him greatly. Today, he will be speaking about the liberation of the camp, as well as where he was previous to arriving at Dachau. He will also say a few words about the people who lived near the camp and their reactions to finding out what was going on during that time. I'm sure he'll share, but he's kept a journal while he was there in service, and most every day he wrote about where he was and what was going on, and that takes a lot, and it's amazing the history that's been captured. So if you will, join me to give our appreciation for him being here today.
My name is Harold V. Wolfson. He missed one point there. I was in the Cold War too. I was at Hanau at the time, and I had my whole family over there for 3 years. And I was in a missile outfit then, Corporal Missile. And we were all aimed at Russia. And on each warhead, we had atomic warheads. Each warhead had the name of the town in Russia it was going to hit. Thank God we didn't have to use it, but we were armed 24 hours a day. But what I'm going to cover today is what I saw in Dachau. Now, when we was on our way to Munich, at that time I was with the 10th Army, and right in the middle of the action there, I was transferred over to the 12th Army, and I ended up in Dachau concentration camp. We were the second troops that came there. The first ones didn't stay at all, they just went on. But we stayed there, and what I want to tell you a little bit about was well, I'm going to tell you about it in a film here. But I want to show you a few things there before I'll show you the film. We were in a, well, let's first see here. Does everybody know what Holocaust means? I just got it out here. An offering, the whole which is burned. Burnt offering, complete destruction of people or animals by fire. That's what Holocaust means. Now, when we got out of the service, we were issued a history book. And I got a few things out of that history book I'd like to read. World War II had been raging for 2 years and 3 months, or some 828 days, when the United States was put into a conflict, forced to declare war against Japan on December 8, 1941, and against Germany and Italy on December 11th, after many efforts to restore peace. Many examples of fraudulent attack on foreign powers were numerous. Throughout the war, the German people were misinformed by the German press regarding the losses of military defeats. As the situation grew worse for the Germans, the verbal newspaper, rumors, that's the verbal newspaper, became more and more prevalent. These began to offset the fantastic lies issued by the German news agency in the Third Reich, became a force of propaganda and falsehoods. German mothers, with fear and anguish, saw what was happening to their sons and daughters. Many were filled with pride. Many grieved at the spectacle. The house was divided against itself. In some homes, youth was arrayed against old age, sons against fathers, daughters against mothers. In other homes, the family unitedly followed Hitler. These were the process of disintegration through which the German people passed. These are the process in which Hitler and his cohorts reached out to reflect on the rest of the world. The German people were forced to live in almost complete darkness about events taking place. All news was reached them for brazen distortion, and those who dared to question were warned of sudden death. to them or their loved ones. It is known that many millions of German people prayed for deliverance behind drawn curtains in their homes. Aged mothers and fathers saw their sons and grandsons either engulfed by the emotional waves of Nazism or driven into it by force. That's a generation of a new order and nothing else. Laws were used to persecute religious groups. The Nuremberg laws of September 1935 created two types of citizens, those with rights and those without rights. The latter group consisted of Jews who had previously been excluded by law from all trades, professions, and business enterprises. The institution and power that followed these laws were then augmented by refusing through the Nuremberg laws the right to trial, police protection, other civic freedoms. Nazi Creed put into effect in 1938 laws imposing extra taxes upon the Jewish citizens trapped in a land that would not allow them to leave. They had been pled white, they could earn nothing. Was savings went out, only death remained. Suicides ran high. The government in 1938 decreed that Jews had no rights to register all property and give Goring the right to seize any and all Jewish property whenever they pleased. Through this process of law, they had no rights, no property, no money, no passport, were unable to work, or subject to persecution of the whim of any Nazi, and was rapidly being forced into extinction. Those who survived the trip were killed by thousands by what the Nazi had decided on as the cheapest and most efficient method, the injection of air bubbles into the bloodstream. If you notice that Nazi flag over there, when I came out of the concentration camp, I was very, very mad what I saw there. And I tore that off a building in Munich. After we went out of the concentration camp, we went to Munich, and I stomped on that, and I sent it home as a trophy. And if you look at it, it's got shrapnel holes in it. And those shrapnel holes are ours from our artillery mortar fire. And so that I brought that home. And a few other things I'm going to cover is, this is we were issued a prayer book. This is a prayer book. It's a GI issue. And we carried it in had a pocket on our uniform, and we carried it in there, and I was hit by artillery fire. I had a piece of shrapnel in my knee, and I had that in my pocket, and of course, I thought I had urinated on myself. But when I put my hand down there, it got me all red, and I passed out cold as a cucumber. If I wouldn't have saw that, I probably kept on. But this Bible was in there, and if you notice, it has my blood stains on there.
There's also something a little.
Oh, you want to show that? All right, my first wife, we communicated by letter, and she would send these to me.
And this is Esther. She's been with my grandfather for a long time, but those are my grandma's books.
You can look at that, I don't have that there. I'd like to read one more thing here. This is a poem, a original form, I didn't change anything on it.
There's some on this table.
No, it was, yeah, it's on the table. We went into there was one home standing there, so we made that our command post. And I went in to get some information to go up on the OP. And I looked in the corner and there was an old typewriter. And it had this in it. I didn't even know what it was. I just grabbed it out, put it in my pocket. And about a week later, I pulled it out. And I'm going to read it to you. It says, "At last, to America. America, now you have come to us. As they had come with you, your light, your ways, your sky. We couldn't come to you, nor could we fly. We were like enslaved, like in our very home, and all alone. Dark clouds and fogs stooped down. They made us sick and sightless, lightless to our own. They called in roaring winds. No one heard. We were forlorn. Your justice only met the wrong. Criminals hid and fled and felt no pain and got no wounds. They knew no shame. But we, the heartbeat of our Germany, we blooded down and out and took the crown of thorn which once our Savior wore, hoping to daring to hope no more. Now you have come, you give us help, you touch the poor, your better life and way. You come at last, may with you come, all strength and might. It seems to me the fog and clouds are gone, and there is light. Augsburg, 1945.
How many of you here are of German ancestry? Okay, we have lots of Germans, especially around Scranton, some
Yeah.
large German communities. Not all Germans were in agreement with what the Germans doing, okay? Not all Germans are bad people by any means. There were lots of people who really were distressed by the things going on. And this is a perfect example.
That's a perfect example of that.
One of a German citizen who was distraught over the situation and glad the Americans were there.
Okay. Yeah, they issued radios. You could only get one radio tuned to one station. You couldn't, and that's the government station. And all it gave is propaganda. Now, show you how bad off they were. This is a 50 million mark piece here. It's a banknote, German banknote. You couldn't get a loaf of bread with that. That's how bad the inflation was in Germany. They'd have to have wheelbarrows or this to get food.
Can we go into the video so
Huh?
that?
Are you ready for the video? Okay.
There's a video, he was interviewed, Mr. Wilson was interviewed by Rice University, the Holocaust Museum there. They videoed him to capture his memories. He used his journal, he kept a journal, the journal is here, the original journal is here, but there's copies that you can flip through. Obviously, you can't flip through this one, but if you want to look at his original journals, there are copies of those for you. And this is a difficult thing for him to talk about, so we use the video so that he doesn't have to keep going over and over that, okay?
Okay. So if I get a little emotional in there, you'll have to excuse me. Okay?
Video's about 1 minute.
I can remember some things that I saw there. We were detailed. Before we got there,
On the 3rd or on the 2nd?
Well, it was on the 3rd, before we got there. We started smelling a very, very distinct odor of death. I smelled it before I knew what it was. But I've never smelled it it's so strong. And we kept wondering, what in the God's name is this? It smelled like a pig pen. If you ever been around pig pen, you know, it's just a terrible odor that made you sick. And when we got close to the town of Dachau, we saw what it was. These boxcars, some of them were open, some of them were closed. And we stopped, the column stopped right there. Now the siding went way out beyond Dachau. And our unit commander told us, he says, he says, I want you to go through these boxcars and see what's in there. And so he detailed, I was a sergeant at that time, and I had a detail of about 6 to 8 men to go with me. And he detailed other ones to go into other ones, the other sections of it. And we went into these boxcars. And I couldn't believe what I saw. I saw bodies. I couldn't tell if they were humans. I couldn't tell what they were. And I saw bodies of children. People of men, women. I didn't know what was going on. I just couldn't. My mind couldn't conceive of what was going on there. And we were told to look for people that were alive. Well, how could you tell if they were alive? You couldn't tell if they were alive. And few people there, we saw them, but their eyes were moving. And we had to move off the other people that was on top of them. And when you move them, the arms would come off and the legs would come off. They would be so decomposed, and the bodies were shrunk. The smell was so terrible that when we got close to there, I just put my gas mask on. I could not stand it anymore. I was just, my stomach was wrenching. I just couldn't stand it anymore. And I asked my beloved commander, I said, what are all these people? What are they soldiers, or are they in the army? But they couldn't be, because there was kids there, children, little bodies.
Did they have clothes on?
Some of them had clothes and some of them didn't. It looked like they were torn off.
What did your commander say when you asked him that question?
He told me that these were Jews. And I asked him, I said, did you know this all the while? That this was what we were going to see? And he says, yes. And I asked him, I said, why didn't you tell us? He says, we were given orders not to tell anybody.
Why do you think that was?
I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
We did get a few people that looked alive. Well, I didn't know if they were alive. And we turned them over to our medical detention.
Mm. When they told you these were Jews, how did that make you feel as a Jew?
It made me angry and so mad I could. If I'd have seen German soldiers around me, I'd have killed them all. I wouldn't. Because could not, my mind just could not figure, why would they do this to human beings? I don't care who they are. We treated prisoners better than that. Well, after we went through the boxcars, got what we could see, we didn't get very many people out. We found out that all these people were not from the camp. They were from other places. They had shipped them in to be burned, to be. And then we went into the camp itself.
There are American troops there?
Yes, we had some American troops there. The gates were open. The first thing I saw was some German soldiers, German guards. I guess they were guards. I don't know what they were because their clothes were torn off of them. Their eyes were gouged out. They were torn apart. And I asked, I could speak a little Yiddish at that time. And see, I thought they were Germans there, so
You thought they were German prisoners there?
yeah, I thought they were, so I was speaking to them in Yiddish, because Yiddish is like German, they could understand it. And then when he come back to me in regular Hebrew Yiddish, I knew that these were Jewish people, and there was, I asked them, I said, so what happened to these guards? And they said, well, when we had word that the American troops were on their way, the inmates there had jumped them and had torn them to pieces just by hand, just torn them to pieces by hand. And we went on through, and the people were so skinny that their bones were sticking out. I mean, you could see, they had these striped uniforms on, and it was filthy, dirty, and it stunk so bad. And I don't know if it was stinking from death or stinking from defecation. I don't know. In urine, the smell was so bad that your eyes just stunk. We went into one of the barracks there, and they had wooden frames and they didn't have nothing in it. I looked in there and see what was they sleeping on, and I couldn't see anything. It looked like maybe they were sleeping on hay or something. I don't know. And and I asked people, and they had these showers, and they looked like regular showers to me, but they told me that there were gas jets in there. I didn't go in, but that's what they said, that they hooked up the inmates. They gave us I guess you'd say a grand tour.
They took you around and showed
They
you?
took us around. And
Why did they take you around and show you?
what did they?
Why did they?
Because we asked them to. I asked them.
And they were willing to do that?
They were willing.
Quite willing to do
Yeah, they were willing.
that. Did you sense in them that they understood what had happened here? That they understood the kind of crime against humanity that
Yeah,
had occurred?
yeah.
And so in a sense, even at that point, even emaciated, and themselves perhaps near death, they wanted to witness to that,
That's right.
even at that moment.
That's right. We also tried to feed. They had no water. They had nothing to eat. They were boiling. They told me they were eating grass, roots, making a soup out of it. Radishes. They had a few radishes. I don't know
That
where
they collected
Yeah.
in the liberation.
Yeah, and they were making soup out of it. And we tried to feed them sea rations, and they couldn't eat sea rations. Their stomachs were shrunk so bad. So we mixed these hash, you know, sea ration, and water, and made a soup out of it, and we gave it to them to eat. And they couldn't hardly eat that.
Now, we might mention that those come in small cans.
Yeah. Regular cans, these were sea ration.
Right, larger cans.
Yeah,
And it was a regular can.
regular
Meat,
cans.
that thing.
Yeah. And we made a soup out of it.
Mhm.
Yeah, and we left cans of water for them. We had, 5-gallon cans of water on our vehicles, and we took them out and let them have the cans of water.
Didn't you worry about the fact you might be thirsty later on? Didn't occur to you? All of your men, this is non-Jews too.
Yeah.
Most of the people there in your unit were non-Jews.
That's right.
And so they too were
Yeah, they're,
moved by this.
that's right.
You told me that you saw large areas of things like clothing.
Yeah, there was, like bins, and they had clothes in one bin, and they had this, I didn't know what it was, so I asked him, and he said it was hair.
Mm-hmm.
In another bin,
They've been shaving
they've
their
been shaving their heads. And all these inmates didn't have no hair, and the ones that were in there, they didn't have no hair. And
So they were harvesting hair.
harvesting hair, yes. And clothes. and
Glasses.
And glasses, shoes.
Did you see any suitcases or anything like that?
Yeah, there were suitcases. Yeah, there was a lot of suitcases in there. They were just real neat like,
Mm-hmm. Who made them neat?
I guess the inmates. They were neat.
Did the inmates talk to you about what these things were about?
Yes, they say that they shaved off their heads before they went into and they told them that they had lice. That's the reason they were shaving their heads. Hair. And that they were going to go in the showers to be cleaned.
Deloused. Huh?
Deloused, yeah.
Did they go in the showers to be deloused?
No, if it's going to the showers, be killed.
Now, what about, you said you went in some officers' quarters?
Yeah. They took me to these officers' quarters, and I saw a lamp, a pretty lamp, And they said, what do you think of the lamp? And I said, it looks pretty. What is it? And they said it was human skin with tattoos on it, like a eagle. And
The tattoos were put on the lamps after the skin was tanned or prior?
prior to the,
So the tattoo was, they would find somebody that was tattooed.
that's right.
They would exterminate them.
They're experimenting.
Peel the skin off
Peel
of
the
them.
skin off them.
Tan the skin,
Yeah,
make that lamp out of
Make
it.
a lampshade, yeah. That's what they do.
Did you go into the major headquarters building there?
There was a headquarters building, and it was a kind of permanent type building, and it was they had like a basement in there. And I went into this basement. They took me down there, and there was dogs that were dead. And man strapped up. And they told me this was a torture chamber.
The people were still there, strapped up,
They were dead.
just hanging. How long were you in the camp?
That's just a couple of, that day we moved out.
Mm-hmm. So you came into the camp on the early morning of the 3rd.
Third, yes,
And on the afternoon of the 3rd,
yeah.
you left.
We left and we bivouacked outside the camp.
What was your purpose in being there? That you can see a military purpose.
The only thing that I could see is to make sure that the people were liberated. I don't know why.
Is it possible that the American Army was bringing people through the camp to witness to the atrocities?
It's very possible, yeah.
Because in effect, you did no military function there
No,
except give them food
that's
and
right.
aid,
That's right.
which is no small matter, but
That's right, no. But by the way, my battle commander was so angry.
he was not a Jew.
No, he wasn't
He
a
was a
Christian. He was a Christian. He was so angry. We went back, because I could talk Yiddish a little bit, and he used me as an interpreter, and then we asked the people in Dachau, did they know what was going on? And they said, no, didn't know what was going on. And it was a lie, because there was no way they couldn't know what was going on.
Why not?
Because the furnaces were there, the people that even worked would live there, that run the camp. They were lying, and we knew it.
What about the smell?
And the smell, good God, we could smell the smell 3 miles from there. They knew what was going on. And so what we did, we made them, we got details, and we made them go through that camp.
Mhm.
We got weapons, and we told them, you get the hell in there and you're gonna go through there. I want you to see what's going on. If you don't know, you'll know now. And we made them go through that camp.
Mhm.
And when they went through all, they put out, oh my God, all that this here. What could we do? What could we do,
Mhm.
That's the only thing we could get from them. But I just, I had nightmares.
You still have nightmares about it?
Times.
So you went out and you bivouacked outside. Do you talk about it among yourselves?
Okay, we'll stop it right there.
Okay, any questions?
Were you only 17 when you saw all those bodies?
He has a hard time hearing. I have to ask him really loud.
You were only 17 years old when you saw that camp that day? How old were you?
I was in my 20s. I was 17 when I joined.
1941.
Yeah.
Questions?
So you took the people that lived in the city that swore they didn't know what was going on and took them into the camp?
You took the people in Dachau and made them go through the camp. The people that lived in Dachau,
Yeah,
you made them go through the camp.
that's right.
She's asking about that.
Yes, we made them go through the camp. We had weapons that we made them go through. And a lot of them said, well, we didn't know this was going on. But how in the world they did know is the smell. A lot of them worked in it. They were lying and we knew they were lying. So that's why we made them go through that.
Any questions?
Did they ever tell how many actually survived Dachau, the Jewish?
Do you know how many people survived Dachau?
No, we never took a count of how many people, but there were some people that would, you might be talking to somebody and they'd be so much, they're barely alive, you turn around and they'd be dead. They'd fall over dead. I mean, that's how bad they were. They were just starved to death. They had a disease. What was that disease?
Typhoid.
Typhoid. Typhoid went through the camp there. They didn't do nothing for them. So a lot of this, just died. They had no doctor to take care of him. And, what's his name, the ones that.
Mandel.
Mandel happened to be at that camp too. And he operated on kids and stuff like that. Did operations that, you know, experimental.
This gentleman had a question right there.
Burl, were there any Nazis captured at the time, any of the SS guys, the guards that were there? Did you capture any of them?
Did they capture any of the Nazis at the city?
Oh, yeah, they captured quite, in fact, when we went there, they were still snipers. We had to do away with them. They were in some of the towers, they were sniping at us. So we had to go and, you know, there's no such thing as giving up of them. The only thing we could do is just perfectly shut them up, stop it.
Okay, the first unit may have captured some, we don't know.
The first might have captured some, see, right attached to that camp was another camp that was strictly for training for the SS troops. It was not a part of the camp, but it was right close by. And so they had a lot of, the troops that came in first, they were more aimed at getting rid of them than the ones on the post. A lot of them dressed like the inmates to get away with it, but you could see they were fed well, and so it didn't take much to find out that they weren't Jewish.
Is there any other questions? I know you probably have lots of questions and you may think of them as you're walking around. There's lots of things to look at. There's lots of artifacts to look at and some things down. There's some Jewish paraphernalia down at the end of the table if you're interested in Jewish culture. He can tell you about that, but I know everybody probably is anxious to eat as well. So probably, if it's okay with you guys, to eat and mingle, and you can come ask questions as you have them. If you look at some things, or if you have questions that you want to ask. It's easier if you come and you're close to him, he can hear you better. Is that okay? Something else?
I'd like to ask those that are veterans to please stand, so you can be recognized. And this was so touching and hard to listen to. But it's important that we realize and know what our military goes through. And in the last of this poem, it says, "It seems to me the fogs and clouds are gone, and there is light." I would like to thank each and every one of you for being that light. And thank you for being here today.